What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a good week. This is the Year in Wrestling 1996 Part 3 video. About 96, I'll be talking a little bit about some ECW. And I'll talk about ECW HeatWave 96. It was not a pay-per-view event, but it was a big show, and it took place at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia. And I'll also talk WWF King of the Ring 96. And I'll talk WCW Bash at the Beach. And I may talk about the July WWF In Your House pay-per-view. First, I'm going to get to some news items before I talk about King of the Ring, or ECW HeatWave. On May 28th, Ted DiBiase is forced to leave the WWF due to a match stipulation after Stone Cold Steve Austin lost a Caribbean strap match to Savio Vega. Ted DiBiase had to leave the WWF, so he did leave. He would pop up in WCW, like so many other guys did from the WWF. They jumped to WCW, and I don't blame them. If they were offered a contract or offered a lot of money to jump, I don't blame them for jumping at all. So that happened on May 28th. And on July or June, I'll just say June 29th, some more news happened. June 29th, 96, Psycho Sid ends his retirement and returns to the WWF as a substitute for the Ultimate Warrior, and defeats Owen Hart in Detroit at a house show. The Ultimate Warrior was not showing. He wasn't showing up for his house show dates. That's what I heard. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if the WWF made it up, but that's what I heard. The Warrior stopped showing up to the events he was booked for. So WWF suspended him and basically then fired him. And he would not return. He would not return from 96 until 2014 when he got put in the Hall of Fame and WWE made a DVD on the Ultimate Warrior. And then he passed away before he made an appearance on Monday Night Raw for the first time since 96. And then when he passed away, WWE made another DVD about him. And had his wife, Diana, I think her name was, or Dana Warrior. She spoke on the DVD about his passing. I still can't believe that he appeared on Raw, and then the next day he passed away. Very tragic that the Warrior is gone. And very tragic that Dusty Rhodes is now gone, and Rowdy Piper. It fucking sucks to be a wrestling fan. In 2015, we had a great, awesome, epic WrestleMania 31. The entire show was booked very well, and it went very well, and it ended very good. Very good ending with Seth Rollins cashing in. But after WrestleMania in June, we lost Dusty Rhodes and Rowdy Piper in July. And in April, late April, we lost the legend Vern Gagne, but he was way before my time. He wrestled and he was in his prime way before I was born. But I still respect Vern Gagne as a legend in the wrestling business. He was a legend. It just, this year, losing Dusty and Piper has sucked big time. And it's really damn hard to be a wrestling fan. 1 week ago, 1 fucking week ago, we got the news that Roddy Piper passed away. Just depressing as hell to lose another top legend like Piper. We already lost Dusty. Now we lost Piper. Just depressing as hell and sad as hell to be a wrestling fan in 2015. I really hope we don't lose another legend or another all-time great in wrestling. I hope we don't lose another one this year. So, now I'm going to talk about King of the Ring. Before I talk about King of the Ring, July 8th, 1996, WWF President Gorilla Monsoon suspends the Ultimate Warrior on television. And Gorilla basically told the fans, and this was a shoot, I believe, that Ultimate Warrior was released from his contract from the WWF because he did not show up at house shows. I don't know what happened with the relationship between Warrior and WWF. Something went wrong, obviously, because they released him. And Warrior, I believe Warrior claims he did not show up at house shows. He claims that's a lie. But WWF claimed that he did not show up at house shows. So I don't know what's true. All I know is the relationship between the Ultimate Warrior and WWF went bad really fast. Warrior came back at WrestleMania 12 in March, at the end of March. And his last pay-per-view was King of the Ring 96 in June. So he's only around 3 months. Barely 3 months. He's supposed to be on the July pay-per-view in your house. I think it's called International Incident. The Warrior was supposed to be on that July 96 pay-per-view, and he was supposed to team with Shawn Michaels and Ahmed Johnson, but that did not happen because Warrior was released. So Gorilla Monsoon announced he was suspended after failure of not appearing at several WWF house shows. And the suspension would be lifted only if the Warrior agreed to a post an appearance bond, and he never did. So that was July 8th. Now I'm going to talk about WWF King of the Ring 96. I was at King of the Ring 96. I attended it. It was my first wrestling pay-per-view event that I ever attended. And it was an awesome show. And it was great memories. I'm very happy and glad that I was at King of the Ring 96 because I was a big WWF fan in 96. I was a big Ultimate Warrior fan, big Shawn Michaels fan, big Undertaker fan at the time, and a big Ahmed Johnson fan at the time. So it was really good and really cool to be at King of the Ring 96 live. I really enjoyed it, and I had a great time. So here we go. King of the Ring 96 took place in my hometown where I live still today. Took place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin at the Mecca Arena on June 23rd, 96. Pre-show matches were Skip and Zip with Cloudy was their manager. It wasn't Sonny, it was Cloudy. And there was a guy dressed up like Sonny. Looked like a giant bodybuilder with tattoos, and Cloudy was just awful. Nobody in the arena wanted to see Cloudy, and it was just gross to see Cloudy dressed up like Sonny. So, and I'm glad Cloudy did not stay around for long in the WWF, because that was just a stupid idea to even bring the guy in and call him Cloudy. Have him dressed as a woman as Sonny. So Skip and Zip defeat Leif Cassidy and Marty Jannetty, the New Rockers. And Leif Cassidy was Al Snow. First match of the King of the Ring 96 pay-per-view. It was a King of the Ring semifinal match. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Mark Merrill. Mark Merrill was with Sable. And Sable looked pretty damn good live at King of the Ring 96. I was always a way bigger Sunny fan than Sable, but Sable still had a great body and she was pretty hot. So Stone Cold Steve Austin goes on to the finals of the King of the Ring tournament, and he would get his lip busted open by Mark Merrill's foot in his face. He got kicked by accident in the mouth, and he'd go to the hospital and get a couple stitches in his lip, or under his lip, or maybe it was above his upper lip. Stone Cold would have to go to the hospital, and he got a lot of stitches that he had in his face when he came back for the finals. Up next was World Tag Team Champions, the Smoking Guns, defeating the Godwins. So they retained the tag titles. Intercontinental Championship on the line. Goldust with Marlena defended against Ahmed Johnson. And the crowd in Milwaukee was not a fan of Goldust at King of the Ring. I think the crowd was pretty shocked by the Goldust character and they didn't like him. The crowd loved live. The crowd loved Ahmed Johnson. He got a huge pop in the arena. Much louder than it was on television. So Ahmed Johnson defeats Goldust to win the Intercontinental Championship, and I marked out like a motherfucker when I was in the arena. I loved it. I was very happy Ahmed Johnson won the Intercontinental title. As I said, I really marked out because I was a big Ahmed Johnson fan. And I thought the guy was going to be a huge star in the next, after King of the Ring 96, in the 97, I thought Ahmed Johnson possibly was going to win the world title, but he never did. Kept getting injured a lot of times. He kept getting injured, and that killed his career. And also, I heard Ahmed Johnson was not safe in the ring. He injured a lot of guys in the ring. I guess he was too stiff. I don't know. But I heard he injured a lot of guys, and he got himself injured a lot also. And that wasn't really his fault. He just did, I guess that's how he wrestled. He wrestled kind of crazy with, I guess he wasn't safe enough with his own body because he kept getting injured. But it was awesome to see him win the Intercontinental title. I was really happy and I popped when he won it. Up next, Jake the Snake Roberts defeated Big Van Vader by disqualification in the King of the Ring semifinals match. So Jake the Snake would go to the finals. Pretty shocking that he did, but he did. Up next was The Undertaker and Mankind, their first ever one-on-one pay-per-view match in the WWF. Their first ever match one-on-one on a pay-per-view. And in 96, they would have a lot of matches on pay-per-views, and they were epic. They had a Buried Alive match and a Boiler Room Brawl match at SummerSlam. And King of the Ring, they had a good match also. The Undertaker Mankind defeats The Undertaker. The crowd was pretty shocked. They couldn't believe it that Mankind defeated the Phenom, The Undertaker. And the referee stopped the match when The Undertaker was unconscious and could not continue. The Ultimate Warrior was on the King of the Ring 96. He was in a little feud with Jerry the King Lawler. Or Jerry Lawler painted a picture, because he's an artist, he painted a picture, drew a picture of the Warrior on Raw, and had it framed, and then he was going to give it to him. And then the Warrior had his back turned, and Jerry Lawler ran behind the Warrior and smashed the picture over the Warrior's head. At least the back of the picture, the glass smashed in pieces. I'm sure it wasn't even real glass. Maybe it was, but Lawler smashed the Warrior painting over the back of his head. So that set up the King of the Ring match between the two. And the Ultimate Warrior, when he came out, when that music hit, I marked the fuck out. Because it was awesome to see the Warrior live. To see him run down to the ring, shake the ropes, and all the energy that he had still in '96. Warrior was a legend. So I was really happy to see the Ultimate Warrior live. Because I never got to before King of the Ring '96. So I'm glad I got to see the guy live at least once before he passed. So the Ultimate Warrior defeats Jerry the King Lawler in 4 minutes, 6 seconds. It wasn't a very long match. And it wasn't that good. They just did not click in the ring together. But it's still great to see the Warrior win. And as I said, not only did I pop and mark out for the Warrior, but the entire arena did also. Got a huge reaction. Up next in the King of the Ring finals, Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Jake the Snake Roberts to win the 1996 King of the Ring tournament. And then after it, Austin 316 was born right there at the King of the Ring 96 in Milwaukee. I was there, and the promo was legendary. He said to Jake the Snake when he was getting carried to the back, he said, "You can thump your Bible and talk about John 3:16, but Austin 3:16 says, I just whipped your ass." And that's what he said in his promo at King of the Ring 96 after he won the King of the Ring. So the Stone Cold character was probably mid-card level. Before the King of the Ring 96, he was in the middle between mid-card and jobber, and at the top was the main superstars. Well, after King of the Ring 96, in my opinion, Stone Cold went from mid-card guy to the top. He went to, in my opinion, he went to be one of the top guys in the company. And he was a fan favorite more and more and more. After the King of the Ring 96, you saw more and more Austin 316 signs in the crowds. And I think they started selling the Austin 316 shirt by at least early 97 or late 96. They came out with the Austin 316 shirt. I bought one in 1997. I still have it. And they didn't push Stone Cold after the King of the Ring that much. He didn't get a world title shot until 97. They put him in bad matches that made no sense. They had Stone Cold work with Yokozuna at SummerSlam. That was on the pre-show. That was a bad spot they put Stone Cold in. And then at the October In Your House pay-per-view, they had him work with Triple H. That was also a bad spot. So they didn't push him good at all until Survivor Series 96 when they brought Bret Hart back. And Stone Cold was ripping Bret Hart on the microphone before he came back and returned. Stone Cold was ripping him and said, if you put a S in front of Hitman, you get my exact thoughts on Bret Hart. So he was ripping him on the microphone. That Bret Hart returned and they worked together and they had a great 5-star match at Survivor Series 96. A very good wrestling match. Main event of King of the Ring was Shawn Michaels defending the WWF Championship against the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith. Davey Boy had Owen at ringside on commentary for most of the King of the Ring. Brian Pillman, even before Stone Cold came out, Brian Pillman made an appearance and got on the microphone and did the super crazy, controversial promo. He even brought up Jeffrey Dahmer which don't bring up Jeffrey Dahmer in Milwaukee, because the guy is like a serial killer and he's a fucking psycho. So Brian Pillman did a very controversial promo. He ripped, he talked about Stone Cold, and then he talked about Jeffrey Dahmer, and he talked about some other crazy shit, and it was insane. The Brian Pillman promo at King of the Ring 96 is pretty fucking crazy. You can watch it back if you have the network, or if you have King of the Ring 96 on video. Or maybe the Brian Pillman King of the Ring 96 promo is on YouTube to find it somewhere. And look it up and watch it because it's insane. So Shawn Michaels defeats Davey Boy Smith with a super kick. And they had a good match. As always, Davey Boy and Shawn Michaels always had good matches when they went one-on-one against each other. I think I said that the last video when they worked at In Your House, Beware a Dog, and then they worked again at King of the Ring. And Shawn Michaels, they didn't put him in very good feuds after he won the title. They had him work against Diesel in one match, and Shawn went over. That was good. And then they had him work in a little feud with British Bulldog, and then he went over. I was happy about that. And then they had him work in a short feud with Vader, and he went over. I was happy about that, but Vader should have won the world title, but he did not, because Shawn Michaels said no to jobbing to Vader. But Vader was supposed to win the WWF Championship at SummerSlam, according to Vader. I heard him say it in an interview that Shawn Michaels would not lose to Vader and put him over and give him the title. But Shawn Michaels was a different guy in '96. He probably had a bad attitude and thought he was the #1 star in the company, and he was one of the best wrestlers for damn sure that the WWF had, and one of the top guys. But he let his ego a bit too much. He let his ego get in the way because he wouldn't put Vader over, and he should have. That was the right thing to do, but he did not. And Vince went along with Shawn Michaels and what he wanted to do. And Vince could have not, but then Shawn Michaels would have probably went crazy backstage and threw a fit, and probably would have agreed to not even show up at SummerSlam and work the pay-per-view if he wasn't going over. That's just my guess. He would have probably threw a big hissy fit backstage if Vince wanted Shawn to job to Vader. So that was King of the Ring 96. I really enjoyed it, and I thought it was a great pay-per-view because I was there. Now I'm going to talk about WCW Bash at the Beach. And we all know what happened at this pay-per-view. The formation of the NWO, where Hogan came out and turned heel for the first time ever. He was heel earlier in his career at like 79 and 1980 when he worked in the WWF. Hulk Hogan was a heel, and his manager was Freddie Blassie. So he did work heel before Hollywood Hulk Hogan, but this was 96, so this was the first time he was turning heel and turned to being a bad guy, since he was a babyface since 83 in the AWA, in 84 in the WWF, until 96 in WCW. So he was a babyface and probably the top babyface, the top good guy in pro wrestling from 83 to 96. Or 96, he wasn't popular anymore as a babyface. The fans were sick of seeing Hulkamania, and they were booing him out of the buildings. So probably for over 10 years, he was a top babyface from 83 to 93. And then in 94, 95, he was still a babyface, even going into 96. So Hulkamania and the red and yellow definitely needed to end in 96, and we needed something fresh, something new from Hulk Hogan and his character, and we got it. I wish Cena would turn heel, because his character really needs something fresh and new, but he never will. I doubt he ever will, because all the Make-A-Wish work he does with kids and meeting sick kids that want to meet John Cena. If he was a heel, they probably wouldn't even want him. Their wish probably wouldn't even be to meet John Cena if he was a heel. He probably wouldn't be their favorite anymore. So I understand John Cena. I understand it partially that he doesn't want to turn heel, because he'd be turning his back on all his kid fans. But I'm not a kid. I would like to see John Cena turn heel within the next year or 2 years. But I don't think it will happen ever. Anyways, I'm talking about 1996. Sorry I went off there and started talking about John Cena not turning heel, because he needs to. But again, he never will. Bash at the Beach 96 took place July 7th, 1996 from Daytona Beach, Florida. Rey Mysterio in the first match. Rey Mysterio defeated Psychosis, and they had a great match. Pretty good cruiserweight match, but their matches in ECW in 95 were much, much better between Psychosis and Rey Mysterio. Their matches in ECW, they had a Mexican death match. That was awesome. They were doing dives and springboard high cross body presses into the crowd, into the fans. They were doing springboard hurricanranas on the concrete floor. Hurricanranas off a car outside onto the concrete. So they had awesome, great matches in ECW, but they still worked very well together and put on good matches in WCW. The only difference is WCW had rules for their matches, and in ECW in 95 there was anything goes and everything went between Ray and Psychosis in their matches. They could do anything they wanted, and they didn't get disqualified. I don't ever remember a bell ringing in ECW all the time I watched. Later on, when I saw the footage from their matches in 95 in ECW and the entire history of ECW, I don't ever remember a bell ringing and there being a disqualification, because there never was one. That's something I liked about ECW, that they just let the match go on and anything went. You could use weapons. You didn't get counted out. You didn't get DQ'd. I thought that was great. That was one of the awesome things about ECW. So Rey Mysterio defeats Psychosis in the first match at Bash at the Beach 96. Then John Tenta again defeats Big Bubba Rogers in a Silver Dollar match. Diamond Dallas Page defeats Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a taped fist match. The Nasty Boys defeated the Public Enemy in a double dog collar match. This was pretty hardcore, and it got pretty wild, and they were brawling the entire match. Were the Nasty Boys and the Public Enemy. They were two brawling tag teams, so what the hell did you expect? Public Enemy were in ECW from 93 to 96, so they wrestled the hardcore style, a lot of matches before they came to WCW. And the Nasty Boys were also a brawling tag team that also wrestled the hardcore style a lot in WCW. Up next, Cruiserweight Champion Dean Malenko. I think the title is on the line. Dean Malenko defeated Disco Inferno. Steve McMichael defeated Joe Gomez, some jobber. And McMichael was a jobber in my eyes, but he defeats a jobber on a pay-per-view. That match should have never been on Bash at the Beach. Ric Flair defeated U.S. champion Conan to win the title from Conan. The Giant and Kevin Sullivan defeated the Horsemen, Arn Anderson and Chris Benoit, in a no decision, or no, there wasn't a no decision. I think it was a no DQ match, and the Giant and Kevin Sullivan won. In a no decision match, or what the hell, or I guess there was no DQ in this main event, 6-man tag. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, the Outsiders, promised to give everybody the third man of their team that he would show up at Bash at the Beach. And he wasn't with them when the match started, so I'm sure a lot of fans thought that the Outsiders did not have a partner. But when the match was getting close to the end, and Sting and Luger and Macho Man Randy Savage were in control of the match and kicking the Outsiders' ass, you had Hulk Hogan come out walking really quick to the ring, and the crowd popped. They were happy to see Hulk Hogan. They thought he was going to come in the ring and be on Team WCW. Nobody, I'm sure nobody in that arena or watching it thought Hogan was going to turn heel. And you had Dusty Rhodes on commentary. When Hulk Hogan came down the ring, Dusty was excited. He was yelling, "Hulkamania's in the building, baby," or something like that. And all the announcers and commentators were happy to see Hulk Hogan. And then he goes into the corner of the ring, rips his shirt off, goes into the corner. Macho Man is laying on his back in the middle of the ring, and then Hulk Hogan does his leg drop on Randy Savage, and the crowd basically was in shock. A couple fans were cheering. They were happy that Hogan turned heel. And they were all high-fiving each other in the first row or second row. You could tell in the first or second row, if you watch Bash at the Beach, a couple fans were happy. Some guy with an ECW shirt was high-fiving people. He was happy Hogan turned heel. I'm sure a lot of the kids there were heartbroken and in shock. And they were probably crying that Hulk Hogan turned heel and joined Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. I was in shock. I didn't see the pay-per-view live, but I did have a good friend that lived downstairs from me. I did have a good friend tell me after he watched Bash at the Beach, the fucking guy watched it and he didn't even invite me to watch it downstairs in his house, and I was his best friend. I don't know what the fuck was wrong with him, but I'm still pissed about that. Anyways, the guy's not even a friend of mine anymore. He's a fucking two-faced piece of shit. Anyways, so who cares if he didn't invite me to watch Bash at the Beach? I don't care, because he's a two-faced piece of shit now, and I don't talk to the guy. Anyways, he watched the pay-per-view, one of my best friends, in '96, and he only started watching wrestling because I was into wrestling, so he just copied me. And then in 2000, probably 2001 and 2, in the year 2000, the guy totally stopped watching WWE and WWF. My best friend, he just totally quit watching it when he got to, in 2002 and 03 and 04, he totally quit fucking watching WWF, and he wasn't a wrestling fan anymore. I don't know why. I guess he thought he was growing up, and he was, whatever he was, 17 years old. He thought he was too old to still be watching pro wrestling. I don't know what his deal was, and I don't care what it was, but he totally stopped watching wrestling And him and me watched WWF pay-per-views a lot. And we watched a lot of wrestling together. We went to 2 WWF pay-per-views together. So, I don't know why the fuck he stopped watching. I guess he thought he grew out of it. I don't know. But I'm a wrestling fan for life. People that know me on Twitter should already know that. I'm not going to fucking stop watching. I'll be a fan for life. Anyways, my friend told me Hulk Hogan turned heel. And I couldn't believe it. I was in fucking shock. I wasn't upset. I was actually happy. I thought, this is awesome. Now we're going to get something different and something really interesting in WCW to watch. What the hell's going to happen with Hulk Hogan now in WCW? I got to see it. I got to watch it. And I started watching Nitro a lot more over Raw in '96. When after Hogan turned heel, I watched Nitro over Raw every single week because of the NWO storyline and what the hell they were going to do next. And it was entertaining as hell. 1996, after Hogan turned heel, in 96, after Hogan turned heel and Stone Cold won the King of the Ring, business really picked up and wrestling got really, really good again. And they talk about how wrestling goes through its cycles, and sometimes they're way, way up on top, and the wrestling business is really, really, really popular and at a high. And then a couple, 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years later, the wrestling business goes down again to not being that popular and having a lot of people walk away from wrestling and stop watching. And then, who knows, in a year or 2 years, maybe it'll go way, way back up and be super popular again. I don't know. But the wrestling business has always gone up and down from it being really popular in the late 80s to from 1990 to 96. It was not that popular, in my opinion. From 1990 to 96, it was not as popular as it was after Hogan turned heel during the Monday Night Wars in 96. From 96 to 2000, I'd say 2004. I mean, you had record ratings on Monday nights. WCW, even before they died and went out of business, WCW was still getting 2.0 ratings. So WWF still had record ratings probably going into 2005 or 4. Anyways, I loved it. And I loved the promo that Hogan cut in the ring with Mean Gene Okerlund, where he got on the microphone and he said, "All you fans can stick it." That was awesome. That was epic. That was a moment that will live in wrestling history forever. No wrestling fan that watched back then in 96 and still watches today, no wrestling fan will ever forget the pay-per-view Bash at the Beach 96 when Hulk Hogan turned heel and joined the Outsiders and they started the NWO. So that was just, it was absolutely booked perfectly. At Bash at the Beach 96, have Hogan walk down to the ring and turn on Randy Savage and turn on WCW and turn on all his fans and tell them to stick it. And then all the trash came in the ring. People were throwing bottles. And these weren't plastic bottles. I'm sure these were glass bottles in 96. People were throwing bottles, cups, toilet paper, plastic cups, anything, garbage, crushed up papers, hot dogs. They were throwing everything in the ring at Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Hulk Hogan. I'm sure all the fans were throwing all that stuff at Hogan because they were pissed. It looked like a riot could have started. The ring was filled with trash, and you never saw that before ever happen on a live wrestling show or live wrestling pay-per-view. You never saw that happen on WWF Raw because it never did before. It did at Bash at the Beach. So the ring filled with trash thrown at Hogan and the Outsiders. And then Hogan said on the microphone to Mean Gene, because he's smart as hell, back in '96, he says on the mic, he goes, all this trash in the ring represents all you fans. We're basically calling the fans trash. That they could kiss his ass, and he says he's the reason why he was saying he's the reason why all you fans are even here to see WCW, and because of me, because I made wrestling. And he was basically telling the truth because he did make it. He did make it super popular, and Vince McMahon and him made it basically into a worldwide, global phenomenon. So what WCW did, and if it was Kevin Sullivan's idea to turn Hulk Hogan heel, and Eric Bischoff, it was part of Eric Bischoff's, I think it was Bischoff's idea. He wanted Sting to turn heel, but Sting was uncomfortable and didn't want to turn heel yet. I don't think he ever was heel in his WCW run. He never was. He was always a babyface and the top babyface in WCW and a franchise of WCW. So Eric Bischoff and whoever else talked to Hogan about turning heel. That was absolutely a genius idea to do it and have Hogan turn heel. Nobody expected it. It was shocking. It was awesome. It was amazing. It was epic. I don't have enough words to describe how awesome it was seeing Hulk Hogan turn heel and join the NWO and join the Outsiders to start the NWO. That moment at Bash at the Beach, that definitely that absolutely the NWO revolutionized, and they started a revolution in pro wrestling. And they basically revolutionized the business to start getting popular again. So that was Bash at the Beach '96. And that moment, at Bash at the Beach when Hogan turned heel, I would say was the best moment of '96. Even better than WrestleMania 12. Even better than the Iron Man match. Because Hogan turning heel was just... it was so unexpected and shocking that it was probably the best moment of the year for me in '96. And hopefully, if you have a brain and you're watching this, hopefully you think Hogan turning heel was also the best moment in '96. Unless you're a Hogan hater and you hate the man. That you can't deny. When Hogan turned heel, you cannot deny that it definitely helped wrestling come back and be popular again. And get newer fans, and you probably had old fans find out, older fans that were fans of Hogan's in the 80s that were teenagers now. And in high school, you probably had them talking about, did you see Hogan turning heel? And older fans probably started watching again because they were teenagers. So they probably started watching wrestling again. So a lot more people started watching wrestling. And after Hogan turned heel, WCW Nitro absolutely kicked Raw's ass every week in the ratings. And I don't know what month when they started beating Raw. I think the streak lasted 18 months, 82 or 83 weeks in a row, over a year, basically a year and a half. Nitro defeated Raw in the ratings every week. So that tells you right there that wrestling business was on fire. Now I'm going to talk about ECW HeatWave 96. I'm sorry this video is going pretty long, but I had to talk about Hogan turning heel a bit longer. ECW HeatWave 96. I'll only talk about ECW HeatWave and November to Remember, because these were not pay-per-view events. These were just big events that ECW did, and they did a big event every month. But I'm not going to talk about an event they did every month, because it'd take too long to do all these videos about 1996. Because ECW did put on a big show every single month at the ECW Arena in 96. And this HeatWave 96 was, I think, in July, maybe August of 96. First match was the Samoan Gangster Party, which was one of the members was Samu, former head shrinker, and the other guy was a relative of his. I forget his name. I think could have been what's his name? He was one of the Islanders in the 80s. The Tonga Kid, I think, was the other Samoan Gangster Party member, and the other guy was Samu of the Head Shrinkers, I think. Anyways, they took on the Gangsters in a basically street fight, out of control, no rules match, like a lot of ECW matches were in 96. But they also had some great wrestling matches also, which had no weapons used in them. But this match was a brawl, it was a war, it was a straight up hardcore street fight. You had New Jack come out with a trash can full of weapons. He dumped them in the ring, in the match, in the war, and the brawl started. And I think all four guys were bleeding. So that match ended in a no contest. And then you have the, because it ends in a no contest, because the Samoan Gangster Party could not continue because they got their ass kicked so bad by the Gangsters. And then the Gangsters call out the Eliminators, the team of Perry Saturn and Cronus, John Cronus. I think that's how you say his name, Cronus. Anyways, he was a partner of Perry Saturn. They were called the Eliminators. They were the ECW Tag Team Champions at HeatWave 96. So the Gangsters call out the Eliminators. And then the Eliminators and the Samoan Gangster Party and the Bruise Brothers would start, or maybe it was later on, they would all agree and start a four-way dance between the Bruise Brothers, Eliminators, Samoan Gangster Party, and the Gangsters. We'll have a fatal four-way dance. And I'm not sure who the hell won it. I forgot. I think Eliminators won it. I'm not sure, because they kept the tag titles and they would defend them later on. Mikey Whipwreck defeated Paul Lorian, or whatever the hell his name was, Paul Lorian. And Paul Lorian was with Damian Kane and Lady Alexander. And then, after Mikey defeated Paul Lorian, the Eliminators come out and they hit Total Elimination, their finishing move. It was an awesome looking finishing move. They hit it on Mikey Whipwreck and Paul Lorian. And then Mikey comes back out, Mikey Whipwreck with his partner Sabu. They take on the ECW Tag Team Champions, the Eliminators. And the Eliminators win and retain the FBI. The first FBI team, the team of Little Guido and J.T. Smith. Later on, it'd be Little Guido and Tracy Smothers, and then after that, it'd be Little Guido and Tony Mamaluke. But this was the first FBI team. I think they had and they were with a WWF job guy from the 80s, Salvatore Bellomo, was with the FBI. They took on the Dudley Boys, a team of dances with Dudley and Devon Dudley. And Bubba Ray Dudley would also come out during the match and hit a couple finishing moves on the FBI. The Dudleys win. Joey Styles interviews Taz with Bill Alfonso. And Bill Alfonso had that whistle with him, and it was annoying as hell. He kept blowing it over and over and over. It was loud, and it was annoying, and it was irritating. But that was his gimmick when he was with Taz. Taz was a heel, and Bill Alfonso wanted to be annoying. I'm sure to have the fans hate him, because he wouldn't stop blowing that goddamn whistle. So Bill Alfonso gets on a microphone and tells Joey Styles that he is fired. And he tells Joey Styles to say on the microphone, "You're fired." And Joey Styles won't do it. He will not quit ECW and say he's fired. And then they're telling Joe Gertner, who was in the ring as a ring announcer for HeatWave, I guess they started saying Joe Gertner can replace you, and easy as hell, Joey Styles. Joe Gertner could replace your ass. So then, Joey Styles still won't quit and say he's fired. And then Taz gets up in his face and grabs him by the jacket and tie and says, you're fired, motherfucker. And then basically he's scared to death. He scared Joey Styles to death. And Joey says, "I'm fired, okay, I'm fired." And then I think Joey Styles even attacked Joe Gertner after that because he's pissed. And then Taz grabbed Joey Styles by the throat and put him on his back in the middle of the ring and was yelling a whole bunch of curse words at him. And then 911 comes out and the fans go crazy in the ECW arena. 911 comes out. And then he was like a 7-foot tall guy. And he didn't do much in ECW, but basically chokeslam everybody. He wasn't a good wrestler at all. But 911 was over in ECW. So 911 basically was there to destroy Taz and kick his ass, but it did not happen. Taz suplex, German suplexes 911, takes him out, and then Taz hooks a Taz mission on 911. And so Taz takes out 911 because Taz was getting a huge push at the time, and he had like an Ultimate Fighter type character, and Paul Heyman really put over Taz and made him look like a badass. How he booked him was him doing all the suplexes, and Taz was a great character in '96, thanks to Paul Heyman. How he booked him, and how he showcased Taz, the human suplex machine. So Taz chokes out 911. Up next, you have an epic four-way dance for the ECW TV title. Chris Jericho was the champion, defending against Too Cold Scorpio, Shane Douglas, and Pitbull number 2. Pitbull number 2 was with Francine, his manager. She was a manager of the Pitbulls. Shane Douglas wins a TV title, and the match went 39 minutes, 41 seconds. It was a really long match, but it was awesome. It was great four-way match. It was one of the best matches of 1996, in my opinion, for the TV title at HeatWave 96. It went a little bit too long, going 39 minutes, but it was an awesome four-way for the TV title. And during this match, right before it ended, Francine turns heel on the Pitbull. Number 2, Francine pulls her skirt off, and she had underwear on, and it said on the back of her underwear, franchise on it. So she turns heel on Pitbull 2 and joins Shane Douglas because he was known as a franchise, Shane Douglas. So she joins and turns heel and joins Shane Douglas. I believe she slapped Pitbull number 2 in the face, and then Shane Douglas won the title and got the win. And then Francine was, I guess Shane Douglas was knocked out by the Pitbulls. And Pitbull number 2, I think, picked up Francine and picked her up on the second rope, and the other Pitbull probably handed Francine to him, and he had her in a powerbomb position off the second rope. He super bombed Francine through a table in the middle of the ring in the ECW arena, and the crowd went fucking nuts. They loved it. They were cheering, and they started chanting ECW, ECW. So Francine gets super bombed through a table in the ECW arena after she turned on the Pitbulls. So that was an awesome moment at HeatWave. You'll never ever see that again in pro wrestling. You'll never see a woman getting powerbombed through a table ever again in the WWE. I don't think they'll ever go back to the Attitude Era, or I don't think they can ever go back to doing violent acts against women. They just can't because of today's society. But in '96, ECW was the first ones to powerbomb women through tables. And Francine, I respect the hell out of her for taking that spot and getting super bombed off the second rope. She was probably 10 feet in the air when she got powerbombed through that table in the middle of the ring. So Francine is tough as hell, and she has my respect forever for doing that and taking that vicious, brutal looking powerbomb through the table. I know this video is almost an hour. I apologize, but I had a lot of stuff to talk about. That a lot of matches were on this heat wave, and I talked about Hogan turning heel a long time, and I talked about King of the Ring 96. So I apologize, but I had to make this video long. Or maybe I just talk too fucking slow and drag on and on. I apologize. But if you're still watching, thanks for watching. You obviously have to be a wrestling fan if you're watching my videos. Up next at HeatWave, there was another match. It was Louis Spicolli and Sabu. Sabu defeats Louis Spicolli. Main event was a steel cage match. Six-man tag steel cage match. It was Raven, the team of Raven, with the Sandman's wife and his son. And his son was like 7 or 8 years old at the time. So this was a very controversial storyline where Raven took the Sandman's wife and his son. And they were hanging around Raven. So Raven had the Sandman's wife and his son by his side. I think they were in the cage with him. But they had to leave the cage, obviously, when the match started. Raven, Brian Lee, primetime Brian Lee. Later on in the WWF in '97, he'd become, I think, I forget his name. He was in the DOA biker group. I think his name was Chains or something. Well, anyways, he was Brian Lee. Brian Lee was also the fake Undertaker at SummerSlam '94. He played the fake Undertaker. There's Raven, Brian Lee, and Stevie Richards against the team of Tommy Dreamer, who was feuding with Brian Lee at the time. They had a lot of matches where Tommy Dreamer's getting chokeslammed off balconies, through 3 tables, through 2 tables in the ECW arena, and Brian Lee was chokeslamming him outside of the arena through a garbage can, or through a dumpster, into the dumpster. I mean, Brian Lee and Tommy Dreamer, they had a wild, crazy feud in '96 in ECW, and their matches were insane and wild. And Tommy Dreamer went through a lot of fucking tables, getting chokeslammed through a lot of tables in '96. So it's Tommy Dreamer, Terry, Bam Bam Gordy, former Freebird, and the Sandman. And I forget who wins. I apologize. I don't know who won. Anyways, I think it's the end of the match, or maybe this was a different cage match in ECW. ECW probably only did 2 or 3 cage matches the entire year in '96. So it was one of the matches between Tommy Dreamer and Brian Lee. Tommy Dreamer is sitting on top of the steel cage, and he got caught like this by Brian Lee, and he pushed him off the cage, threw him off the cage, chokeslam style, and Tommy Dreamer went crashing through 3 tables. One of the tables did not even break because it wasn't a gimmick table. So one of the tables did not even break, and Tommy Dreamer fell back first onto the concrete floor. That obviously was not good for his health, because later on he would get a broken back in '99 and have to retire and stop wrestling and rehab his back in '99 for a while. And then he did return eventually. But Tommy Dreamer taking those chokeslams through all those tables and falling off a cage on the concrete on your back because all the tables didn't break properly, taking all that punishment to his back definitely made his back break in '99. Tommy Dreamer, tough as hell, and I respect the hell out of him for what he did in ECW. He was the heart and soul, for sure, of ECW. So that was HeatWave '96. I talked about King of the Ring and Bash at the Beach and ECW HeatWave. If you're still watching, thank you very, very much for watching this video, The Year in Wrestling 1996 Part 3. Hope you enjoyed it. I know I went on a little bit too fucking long. I apologize again, but I had a lot to say. I'll probably do another video on 96 Part 4, where I'll talk about the In Your House July pay-per-view. Maybe I'll just talk about the main event, because that show was not very good. And then I'll talk about SummerSlam, and then I'll talk about WCW Hog Wild and Halloween Havoc. Or Fall Brawl was before Halloween Havoc, so I'll probably talk about Fall Brawl, where they had a War Games with the NWO and the Horsemen. Okay, I'm talking way too fucking much. I know that. This was The Year in Wrestling 1996 Part 3. Follow me on Twitter at TNAWWE Guy. Have a good fucking Friday, everybody. Have a good Friday and good weekend. Bye for now.